Leah, good to have you on here. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on here.
super happy to be here.
Starting way back here, where did your enthusiasm for music stem from?
It's definitely a family inherent practice and love. I was super young. I mean, my mom's a musician, and she married a engineer who built a studio out of our small garage in Van Nuys. I'm here. I'm not living with them. They're in Portugal. I take care of them nowadays. But so we had this like music room. It was meant to be like a recording space, but it ended up just being this like functional practice space and jam room. And so I was super lucky because I was raised in a super creative musical family. And my older brother, he also was like a musician. He played guitar, he played drums, played all kinds of things. And I'm not going to get into too much now. We'll probably talk about it, but he had cancer. He got cancer when he was 16. And so my mom allowed for him to just like have the time of his life while he was in his teens. So having his friends over all the time, playing music, smoking weed, doing whatever the heck he wanted to do. So I was immersed in just like the culture of having friends over and just making music and having fun and goofing off. And I just remember being super young, maybe like 5 or 6, going in to the room and watching my brother and his friends jam and have a good time. And like I just remember the like vibrational sort of excitement that I felt when I was here immersed in like the guitar amps and the drums and all the loudness of it. It was so captivating. Like I'll never forget that, where I was just like, whoa, this is cool. Like this is weird. It's actually, it's affecting my body in some way. And yeah, so I picked up on it pretty early.
Yeah. Do you still associate playing music with just like let's have a good time here, essentially?
Yes and no. I think I mean, yes, as soon as I sit down at my kit, I ground. It's a very weird thing because sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm too tired, or I make all these excuses because sometimes it's work. And so I have to actually practice and rehearse or do all of the mundane things that it takes to condition myself to, be able to perform. But every time I get on a kit, I'm like, whoa, that actually feels like medicine. That was actually exactly what I needed to do right now. It's a very weird thing, but yeah, it's kind of you resist the things that are good for you kind of feeling. And then when you do it, you're like, wait a minute, this is actually really pleasant.
Why did you gravitate towards drums out of all these instruments that you had at your disposal?
It's funny because I didn't really think that that was my calling, especially back then. I loved Spice Girls and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. I was like this pop girl. I just wanted to be a pop singer, and I'd put on like these choreographed dances for, all the friends that came over, and make them like come outside and watch me and my three friends do this like weird dance to,
Yeah, it's not just partying around. It's like, hey, we're doing a show
yeah,
here. I
yeah, yeah.
understand.
You
Yeah,
guys
there's
can't stop partying, stop talking to each other.
yeah,
Come watch
put
me.
the bong down and be quiet for a
Yeah,
minute. Yeah, all right.
exactly. Then, okay, so then my brother lost a battle to cancer. He was 19 and I was 7. And at that time, it was in the 90s, late 90s, there wasn't really therapy accessible for me as a young child, or my younger brother. So yeah, the first thing my parents did, it was really weird. We would go to this playground pretty frequently and play around. And one day there were these 3 guys that were just kind of having a drum circle playing congas. And my dad immediately saw them and was like, I want to get drum lessons. And so he asked one of the guys, And so my dad actually first started to take drum lessons and he didn't like it. It just didn't work out with him. And then my younger brother tried because he was all spastic and, extroverted, and they thought, "Oh, drums is going to be a perfect outlet for him." But he also didn't really like it. And so then I just kind of started playing for fun, just dabbling at it. And my mom was like, "Well, we want to keep this guy in our life because he ended up becoming like a lifelong friend of ours." And so and I was his first like long-term drum student, so it was really cool because I was like, okay, I guess I'll try this. And then I ended up really loving it, and I don't know what it was. I don't know what my mom picked up on, or his name's Keith. We called him Beetle, but I don't know what they picked up on. It was just something that I clearly was curious about, even if I didn't really want to believe that I was. Like I said, like I just wanted to be singing and doing pop stuff and femme, whatever, what I thought to be femme, but instead I was just drawn to the the exercises and the rudiments and all the practicing. And then it became a lot more interesting once my older brother's friends started coming over and encouraging me to play with them, which I thought was really cool because I had just been a listener and a viewer of them and admiring them. And then all of a sudden they're like, "We want you to play with us." And it just felt really good. And I felt a part of a community. And I felt like that encouraged me even more to start, playing music that I really liked and doing things that felt more aligned with what I was growing to become as.
Wow. Do you think that without Beetle, you would have found your way to drums anyways?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think there would be a motivation. Yeah, actually, yeah. Beetle was great. He really got me into the fundamentals, and it really really helped spark this part of me that now loves funk and jazz and rudiments and all the things that you wouldn't think just like by my playing, but just made me feel super fond of the art of playing and how versatile it can be. But I do think because I had my brother's drum kit and I had this space, and I think there was something about the drums that spoke to me, and that still does. I don't know, sometimes it's things that I don't even realize I'm doing, like tapping all the time or moving my feet or listening to the drums or responding to it in this like really inherent way. But I don't know. Well, maybe my parallel self took another route.
Did you feel a connection with the drums immediately or pretty soon after kind of picking up the sticks and getting behind the kit?
Yeah, not super quick. I mean, it almost felt kind of routine because I wasn't. I mean, I was listening to music that I liked, and I think the first time I went to go see, well, I said the first concert that I went to was Hanson, and then the second one was Ani DeFranco because my parents were huge Ani DeFranco fans, and so there were these two different influences. Like Hanson, I thought was pretty. Like I thought the drummer, and I thought that them being able to sort of create. They I remember I saw them at the Hollywood Bowl when I was like 5 or 6, and they would switch around on the instruments, and I just thought that that was really cool.
They played the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah,
Man,
maybe I don't know. I'm like I could be totally wrong about that, but I'm
I
pretty sure
mean,
it's
the
Hollywood.
Hanson was pretty big.
Yeah,
Bebop was huge.
yeah. So they must have. It was a
Wow.
yeah. It must have been there. But then also Ani, it was a really interesting thing to just see like a a femme on stage doing these really rhythmic guitar things that like I had no idea about, but everything just I think there were all the little things that kind of came together for me to be intrigued by the drums. And yeah, but it never really I never thought like, "Oh, I'm going to be a drummer for the rest of my life." Like, "Oh, this," it was almost just like, "Okay, my mom doesn't want to get me therapy, or like at the time, like looking back on it, I wasn't even thinking about therapy. I didn't know what that was or what I was going through, really. I thought, I mean, in this twisted way, it's like, oh, this is a part of life. But instead, I was put into these positions of like, this is the way to cope with the loss of your brother. This is the way to get through hard things. And so it became a sort of therapy for me. I think that's what it was, actually, was like I wasn't really into it as an art form. I was into it more as like this space where I needed to focus my attention so that, I wasn't always grieving. If
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Right. How long were you playing drums for until you joined your first band?
Oof. I think I was probably 5 years in. Yeah. I'm good friends with a bandmate from that band, and we just did covers. We played No Doubt, Bathwater. My favorite was Scentless Apprentice by Nirvana. That one was one that I was really excited to play because it was really challenging. And then we kind of played around with our own songwriting, but I don't remember any of the songs. But it was called Awkward Silence.
Good name.
Yeah.
What was that experience like looking back on it?
I mean, it was cute. It was my friend that was my first close friend. I mean, we'd been friends since we were 5. We're still friends, which is wild. And she would just come over to my place and she's like, I know how to play bass. And I'm like, cool, let's like play around with these things and, see what happens. And I've always been an extrovert. I've always been a social butterfly and I like hanging out, and so it just felt really good that I had these outlets where I could play with other people and figure things out, figure out dynamics and personalities and whatnot kind of early on. And of course, it became different because it became more serious and involved in a couple years past that time, around when I was 17 or 18, and I started playing at places like The Smell and Pear Space in LA and DIY spots, and opened up to more of the art form and more of the intricacies of what I was playing, and also what I was surrounded by as far as like influential bands and performers in that scene.
In terms of influence, uh, for drumming, who were some people that stood out to you then and maybe still stand out to you now in terms of playing?
Oof. Uh, oh, okay. So part of me was, of course, when I was in my sort of mid-teens, I got really into No Doubt, and I wanted to play all of their songs. So I just played all whatever, however many 6 records of No Doubt, and learned how to sing and play with them. So yeah, I got to credit Adrian Young for that. But then, of course, like I listened to different music. One of my drum teachers, when I was in high school, introduced me to Mahavishnu Orchestra. So Billy Cobham, prog rock was something that I wasn't really into. Like my older brother, he was like a huge Fish head and loved Grateful Dead and stuff, but like I never got into that. But then when I listened to Mahavishnu Orchestra, I was so inspired by the drums. I just thought, I mean, I'm the kind of person that goes closer to like technicalities and whatnot. I also loved different jazz drummers, and then got into like Fela Kuti and Tony Allen and like Afro beats and stuff like that, and also the Slits. So then I became obsessed with Budgie. Um, I mean, also like Meg White was a huge one, and Brian Chase from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Like all of these people that I just were a mixture of like the indie rock scene, and then also just stuff that I was being educated on through my studies and through learning, that just, yeah, created this whole sort of abyss of like what was possible. And then I guess in the Smell scene and DIY scene, I had a bunch of friends that were just like playing. I'm trying to think of any like really specific pivotal drummer. There was this band called Bitches, and my friend Stas was the drummer, and she was just so cool and so intricate in that like punky sort of like art punk kind of way. And it really struck me. And then my friend Andrew McKelvey, he's still a good friend now. He plays in a bunch of cool bands, but he definitely, like, being able to watch my peers and be like, dang, these are really freaking incredible musicians, and we're learning from each other and we're growing and evolving. It was, yeah, those were really cool times.
So not that many influences, I understand. Uh,
I'm like, I could list more.
when did you start contributing to original songs with the band? When did that come across your desk?
That was the post high school DIY punk scene. I don't know about punk. Maybe punk is the wrong word. It felt like felt like it was everything. It was experimental, avant-garde, indie, like folk or whatever. It was just all kinds of things. But yeah, this band I started with one of the a person that I went to school with, and we were both sort of outcasts, but worked or like hung out with different people. And I would see them around and be like, hey, they're really cool. I think I want to play music with them. And so we started a band called Ostrachize, and they wrote really cool poetic folky songs, and then I wanted to put all of these intricate drum parts on it, mostly because I wanted to keep getting better. I wanted to keep practicing as I was performing, and so that was my method of doing it. And that led me to then, and then we met my now best friend Nikki, who ended up playing bass with us. And then Jess, the other bandmate, went to college, and Nikki and I still wanted to play music, so we started a band called Peter Pants, and we played a bunch of shows with our friend Greg and Michael Rader. And I mean, it was when we were, yeah, 17 or 18, and I was working at a frozen yogurt shop and trying to go to school, but wasn't really good at it. Ended up smoking a bunch of weed and partying.
Was it around the time of at post ostracize that it started becoming more professional, or that you felt it was your career in music was going more professional?
Kind of. I think what was happening is I made a decision that this is what I wanted to do for my life. And it wasn't pursuing school, it wasn't doing the traditional pursuit of life, whatever that may be. It was I really just I went to visit family in Nashville, and I went to a couple shows out there, and I just thought the energy at the shows that I went to were so lively and fun, and I thought that's something I want to do. That was very naive, of course. That's what everybody wants, is to be able to play music and create the party and be the center of attention and whatnot. But then that's what I wanted at that point. It was super captivating to me. And so that's when I started to hang out with, I mean, really what happened is I just got to know more musicians, and I started to connect and see what felt like the most exciting thing to be around at that time. And then I started to play with more bands, and then I started to get picked up by different artists. And I my first tour was at South by Southwest. We played with Peter Pants and then this other band called Therapy Son that was represented by this label. And so yeah, that's where I got recognized or picked up as like, oh, this is a pretty competent drummer, and she's young, so she's easy to pick up in that excitement of just being able to play music and wanting to play. So yeah, that led me to never stopping, I suppose.
It's kind of evolved over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it felt really It just felt right, even if there were things that were very challenging or misleading or confusing. I mean, even when I was doing Peter Pant and Ostracized, we weren't making any money. We were schlepping our drums and instruments to different places. We were saying yes to everything. We were making our own merch. We were making our own, we were trying to find ways to just do the thing at a very DIY base level, but we knew we loved playing music together, and we knew we wanted to do this. And so it was more just the pursuit rather than, having any goals, which ended up being kind of weird for me as I started to play with other bands in LA, which felt more like, oh, we need to do what the next best band, like the biggest band right now is doing. We need to like fit in with what's happening and what's popular. And it was such a weird thing for me because that wasn't what I was in it for. So yeah.
What are you able to pinpoint what you're in it for now?
Whew. Well, yeah, I think about that all the time because I'm an adult and it's funny. It's still a weird thing to speak of what I do to people outside of it, right? Like, oh, you make money as a musician, or oh, wow, you tour, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's like, I've worked really hard to get there. I've literally sacrificed so much to be doing this for a living or whatever it may be. I still work other jobs and I'm in school right now, so I have all these things that I still have to do to maintain um a balance of reality, because for a while it wasn't based in reality. It was like, oh my god, like I am touring and all these things, but there's a lot of preparation and there's a lot of mental uh you know sort of strength that you have to build, the capacity to be around certain people, the capacity to immerse yourself in the travel situations and uncertainties and unpredictabilities, and how to pack and how to deal with like going to a gas station and being stared at or whatever it may be. It's just there's things that are, I mean, there's just endless things that you have to sort of pick up on and be mindful of as you're doing this. So, I love it so much, but music and playing music is the sort of product at the end of the day, sort of, it's like the tomato that's at the market, but getting there and the process of making it and having it go through all of the processes to get to that place is kind of the majority of it, if that makes sense.
No. But anyways, uh, n-
Has
no,
anyone ever
I,
used that metaphor?
well, a tomato in the market. That's the first time I'm hearing about it, but I kind of like it.
Okay, cool.
Um, has the way you've gone about writing and developing drum parts changed from when you started to now?
Definitely. Yeah. I also write music and I sing and I make my own music along with playing with other people. And something, I mean, yeah, I can pinpoint just in the timeline of what really sort of shaped me in all of those moments. One of them being I was recording the record with Le Tourette's Cries for the Flies. And that was in 2012, I think we recorded it, maybe 2013. And Omar Rodriguez Lopez was producing it and playing bass on it. And I'd go in the studio and the bandmate and I, Terry, we practiced the songs a lot before we jumped into the studio. And then when we got in there, Omar came in and just kind of put everything into balance and helped to shape everything into, a digestible form. Because for me, it was like, oh, I just want to do all these intricate things. Like I said, with Ostracize, it was all about intricacy and doing something playful and fun. But with this record, it was a lot more like straightforward rock, you know, don't do all the ghost notes that you're doing. Don't throw in a bunch of these like extra fills or make it super intricate. Can you just play a straight beat, you know, just closed hi-hat, straight for, you know, quarter notes on the hi-hat, quarter notes on the drum, on the kick drum. And I remember being like so mad. I was so pissed off because I'm like, you're stripping me of my creative integrity, you know, this 19-year-old, like whatever. And then you know, and then I listened to the record and I was like, oh, he's right. Like that made the record so much more listenable, and it wasn't about me, you know, it was about the song and the music. And it was really cool to have that realization as I was listening to the record, because I was like, oh my God, I didn't even like realize how much just taking all the excess out of it can really create the energy that you want, both live and both for the record as well. Um, and then I started playing with the Place to Bury Strangers a couple of years later, and that was like a whole other ball game where we started the songs mostly with drum machines. So it was almost like I had to just transcribe from drum machines, but also bring in my own style as well. But it was so intense. I had to really push myself to not only play these really intricate patterns, but also to play with that intensity. And it was a cool thing to then dive into the world of electronics and of, you know, a demo, like making demos and making the beats before jumping onto the kit. um because like, yeah, they're both intuitive and they can both create something really interesting if it's allowed. So I don't know, it was just cool to open up and continue to open up and expand to what's possible with simplicity and with also intricacy.
Yeah, kind of melding those two together.
Yeah, yeah, finding a happy medium for sure.
Right. Do ideas for specifically drum arrangements, do they come from you practicing or playing alone, or is it usually built up from performing with other people or jamming with other people?
It's both. So a lot of what I do nowadays is I kind of just pick up on what other people have created, just because it's more of like a boundary for me. One, because I wanted to take time to really work on my own music and figure out how to just kind of create and produce my own work. And then also I just don't want to be super involved with every single project that I hop into, just because of past experiences and just not wanting to get too caught up in the like, oh, I'm a band member and, you know, I created all these things. I love jamming and I love being able to like find a cool sound. I do that with my brother actually. He also plays music, my younger brother. And so we have a very intuitive way of just writing music together. But as far as the other bands, it's usually like, I mean, with the Place to Bury Strangers, it was so much jamming and so much writing. And so yeah, like a lot of our work. I mean, obviously it was someone else's project that I jumped into kind of like 10 years into it, or 12, however many years it had been going on before I jumped in. But I think it was really cool because they were open to me bringing my own style and my own sort of perspective of arrangements for a minute, you know, while I was in the band, which was a cool experience, honestly.
When you're in that situation of kind of jumping into another band that's already been established or project that's already been established, do you find any hesitation in the earlier stages of like, I don't want to overplay, or kind of really, I don't want to switch this in any way that they don't want? Is there some sort of balance there that you have to reach as well?
Definitely. I mean, and it all varies. There's some bands that I play for that I've played for a while, and the leader, the artist, like really trusts what I do, and that makes me feel more motivated to practice and be attentive, but also to include what I think would be good for the performance. Whereas there's other artists who have very specific ideas of what they want, and sometimes they just want straight to the grid and nothing different from the arrangements. And so I mean, I'm a perfectionist at heart. So I just try for any of the bands and for any of the projects that I play for to just learn everything verbatim. And as we play and go along, see how I can bring in my own style with it. But lately, because I'm this, like, I've worked for bands with drummers who'd already played and songs already arranged and whatnot, like I do have to just stick to what's there. But sometimes they expand it and they're like, okay, we're going to extend this ending so that you could have more space to really perform and have an opportunity to kind of expand into, what this idea is and what you want it to be. But I recorded some music for She Wants Revenge and Justin Warfield, and it was really cool because they had me in the studio and we just did a bunch of takes, and what they wanted was, what I had intuitively sort of designed as fills and drum beats and my style, and it was all welcome, and they were super stoked and happy with it, and that made me feel really good because again it was like I was given the space to just really do what I love to do, but also making sure that it kind of like what we were talking about before, where it's still digestible and listenable. It's not like, super complicated.
Have you been in multiple bands for most of your career in music?
Like at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Was that always a goal, or was it just something that happened organically?
It just happened. When I joined Le Butcherettes, I had been in like 9 bands before I decided I'm gonna move to El Paso with them, and I'm just gonna focus on this band. And I quit Peter Pan's. I was playing in all these other projects and, let go of those. And I was like, I just want to focus on this one thing. But it didn't work out. And so then I took some time, I took a break, and then I moved to New York thinking I was going to finish school out there, and thought, oh, I'm not going to play music anymore. I'm done. I'm jaded, 23 or whatever. And then and then I started, picking up shows. I would actually, what was fun out there was I was playing with different musicians, but I was doing a lot of experimental avant-garde shows. So no learning people's songs, no, it was all just like improv in front of people. And that was really fun. And I still love that to this day because it's really just about the the feel and getting to do all of these really fun crazy things, and it makes sense somehow. Like that's like part of my soul work, as a child, like wanting to just kind of get all this energy out, and like I was saying, have this therapeutic release. And that's really where I would get it, was in those spaces where I didn't have to learn anybody's songs, and all we were doing was just picking up on each other's groove and vibe and energy. So that was really fun. And then and then there was like one gig that I decided to take that was like 3 shows with the band. And Dion, the bassist of A Place to Bury Strangers, happened to be at one of the shows. And then he invited me to come play with A Place to Bury Strangers. So I was like, shit, I got to do this. This is awesome. And then shortly after that was when Trust recruited me. So I was in A Place to Bury Strangers and Trust at the same time. And honestly, that was so insane because they were both like touring a lot. And there was one month, I would say, like where I didn't have any days off, and I had to fly to go play with The Place to Bury Strangers on the day off that I had with Trust, and then, fly around. And it was so insane. I try to have like as much of a transparent communication with everybody involved. Like, hey, I need to do this thing, you know, like, because I love all the projects, and everybody understands. They're like, if you have to go and do this, like, we totally get it. But um, for the most part, it's worked out, and I'm really, really grateful for that. As far as it goes right now, you know, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the future.
Is it ever difficult to switch between one band and another band and just sort of changing gears like that? Is it ever an issue, or is it pretty easy?
It's pretty easy for me, but it's mostly just personalities and different energies when you hang out with different people. It's not so much about the music. The music is very intuitive for me, and like I said, like I work my freaking butt off to get everything to feel as solid as possible before I jump into a session with anybody or a practice or a tour. So it's yeah, like I come very prepared. I mean, you know, I don't know. Usually I do. Maybe other people think otherwise, but
Has your time in and around these different bands, you've had a hand in playing with and performing with, influenced the way that you make music moving forward, no matter how long of a stint you have?
yes, 100%. So many. So I mean everybody really. I think my main motivation I don't know if this sounds twisted, but my main motivation when
Make
I
it twisted. I want to let's do it.
let's
Twist
twist
it
it
up.
up a little bit. Yeah, like when I am recruited for a project or an artist, I usually think like I'm going to find something to learn from in this, whether it be the logistics, the style of how people organize things, the music, the production, the instrumentation, the recording to live approach, all of these things like that. So all of these little details that, again, when I first started, I was like, oh, it's going to be so cool to play with this like feminist punk band from Mexico and watch this artist Terry like really immerse herself in the performative style of her music. And I just loved her voice so much because it was so powerful and like such a projection. It wasn't like soft or reserved. It was like really out in your face, and it was so cool. And so I thought like because I'm a drummer and I also sing pretty, you know, not abrasively, but like I like to kind of project. Um, it was influential for me to see like how to control your voice when you're performing and when you're doing something super intense, but you want to, you know, you want to translate the context of emotion and of like the strength of your instrument. So yeah, and then like I mean all of them both good and bad, like learning about, you know, how to treat others, right? Like learning how to have like a cool chill dynamic on stage, or how to, you know, get through resentments or something. Like I I remember he's gonna hate me, but I had a little fight with a bandmate. We were in Asia and we played at this venue in Hong Kong, and we got really pissed off at each other right before the show, and it really fueled my energy on stage, and I just pushed like all of my anger into playing. And I thought that was a really good show. Like I was like, man, that actually really made the show better, but he was so pissed off. I really don't think it was the best show that we've ever played, but I felt like, you know, what my experience was with that was how can I translate how I'm feeling? You have to be sort of raw and vulnerable on stage at all times. Like I'm not going to get into some specifics of things that I've gone through, but there were times when like I'd have like stomach pains, you know, while playing, and like be screaming on stage because like I don't know how to keep it in. you know, you don't know, you can't keep it in when I like, there's shows where I've been crying on stage and I'm like, fuck, like, this is so hard to do, but I have to do it. And you have to see everything. And that's like, you know, it's a blessing and a curse in a way, because it makes you want to connect with people more and have it be a safe space for everybody, you know, no matter where you're at. But at the same time, it's hard for me as this emotional wreck. You know, I can be sometimes.
In terms of great shows that you've played, what are some that stand out to you that are in that category?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've gotten to play such wild, surreal shows. I would say, trying to think of, I mean, so there was one show. It's weird because I was talking to someone today about Anthony Bourdain, and the day that he died, A Place to Bury Strangers was in LA. We played, no, wait, we played a show in San Diego and then had to drive overnight to LAX to go play a show in Mexico City and then fly back to LA. And this is all in like the same amount of time, you know, no days off. It was just fly in, play show, fly in, play show, fly in, play show. And yeah, like that also, you're talking about that raw energy. Like when we got to Mexico City, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna freaking do this. We got no sleep in San Diego, or from San Diego. I was so freaking tired. We were all just like so zombied out, and then go and play this show, and it was so fun. It was crazy. It was like the performance was excellent. Everyone felt so engaged, and we would do this thing where we'd go into the crowd and do this like cool improvised drum machine vocal bass thing. We'd have like a big monitor that would just like blast everything out, and the crowd surfed us back to stage, and that was just like really cool and special. um I mean, I just played Cruel World with She Wants Revenge, and that was one of the best shows I've ever played. Just like hands down, just felt so beautiful. I'm sober 3 years now, and you know, I was playing not sober for 10 years. Like I was playing pretty much stoned or drunk every single night. And to be sober and to really be immersed in the present moment and in the space, and you know, in the connection with the crowd, it's just been like a whole new experience for me, because I'm actually waking up to it, you know, and realizing like, whoa, my life, like this is so incredible. And I don't take it for granted now. I used to take it for granted. I'd be like, oh, I'm nervous, I got to take a drink of whiskey, and then yeah, and then I'd be even more nervous, or I'd smoke weed and like be questioning every single thing that I do. And now I get to, you know, play music and love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, do you feel like sobriety has changed the way, not, I mean, not being drunk or high, just in terms of what you're playing has changed?
Now, I don't think it's really changed so much. I think the details are there. To me, I invest more attention to it, as opposed to just like passively doing things. I think one thing when I was with A Place to Bury Strangers is I would speed up a lot in my playing. And while that happens naturally, like I want to kind of call out, one of my favorite drummers is Milford Graves, and something that he said in an interview is that we're not we're not like, our bodies aren't conditioned to be on the grid, you know, like our heartbeats are different speeds, like change tempos. And so I've thought about that a lot, just because I used to be so insecure about speeding up and slowing down and not having perfect timing. But it's like, that's not human. And so, I mean, I love playing to a metronome, and I love playing on the grid as well. There's nothing weird about that. But I do feel really sensitive when someone's like, "Oh, you're speeding up, you're slowing down." It's like, "Oh, well, we have to keep playing together to really kind of get a sense of what we're doing here."
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah.
Uh, you'd mentioned this before. In addition to playing with other groups, you have your own music. When did that project start?
It, I started writing music on my own in 2013, kind of after I had just recorded with Le Boucherettes, and I thought, dang, I want to do this on my own. I had a four piece with a bunch of women, and we all did harmonies, and it was really pretty, and it was a complete shift from what I had been doing in like the art punk world with Peter Pants and Ostracize. It was a lot more pop rock and yeah, multiple harmonies kind of thing. And it was really cool, but then it didn't work out with them. So I was like, oh, I still want to write. And so I wrote an EP with someone just to see if I could. And then and then again, well, and then something weird happened where I quit Le Butcherettes and I got someone's attention through the EP that I had made from a big label that I really loved, and he and I had a meeting, and he's like, you know, like write an album and bring it back to us when you're done. And so I spent a couple months writing demos and working on things that I wanted to present to this label, and then turned out that that guy was a predator and not a good person. So that kind of led to this whole shift in like, fuck, man, I don't want to do this, I guess. Like, I really can't if this is what it's going to be like. And I know it's not all going to be like that and it's not all like that, but it damaged me at that time. And so and then I started playing with the Place to Bury Strangers shortly after. And what was cool about them was they were the first band, I mean, out of like, you know, Le Butcherettes and playing bigger shows and whatnot, that was like, we want you to really sing on on the shows. I had an auto harp. And so I'd like play this auto harp that had a pickup, and it'd go through like chorus and delay pedals. And then I'd like sing with a bunch of reverb. So it'd be this really intense arc into sort of the midway point of the show, and I would just improvise a song and sing, and then we'd go back into the intensity and finish out. But that to me was really special because it encouraged me to sing more, and it encouraged me to bring out a part of me that I felt wasn't either welcomed in the other projects or wasn't just wasn't part of the aesthetic. It fit right in with this band, and it was really cool. And I mean, I just needed the motivation. And then I also learned how to really like hone in on demos with them. And then, yeah, when I moved back to LA in 2021, that's when I really like hunkered into, okay, I've got X amount of demos. Like, I really want to see what can happen with them. And so that's what's happened.
Was it a difficult undertaking in the beginning? Just getting it off the ground.
Oh my
In
God, it still is. Are you kidding me? It's the
Now
hardest
it's not what I want to hear, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Sorry. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's the hardest thing in the world. It's good. It's gratifying in many ways, for sure. I don't regret it, but there's definitely cosmic setbacks that make me feel like I always have to question it. But I'm reminded by my mom and by people that know my story and know, you know, how I work is we need the rejection in order to keep going. We need to feel the challenges and keep doing it anyways. So that's what I'm leaning into more is, okay, I did it without a sense of perfectionism. I didn't do it right. I didn't do it perfectly, but I'm still going to write music. I'm still going to create and collaborate. I'm still going to make it, and I'm still going to play drums with other bands. It's cool because I can do all of it.
Yeah. Did you have an idea of what you wanted this project to be or sound like before it began, or did it just kind of, organically unravel into what it's become?
It's still figuring it out. There's still a lot of question marks around it. I think what I really want is to have the freedom to be able to really focus on it, to have a, a couple days or a couple weeks in a studio and really just jump into it and work with another producer, work with musicians that I love and admire, which I got to do on this last record, but I want to be able to actually give it the the depth that I feel I can once the opportunity arises. But when you have your own, your own funding and your the budget's low and tight and also all these other things like I've just since I've been sober, I've been trying to pick up where I left off, so to speak, which is, maybe 12 years old. So there's a lot of growth and figuring out how I want to create a project that's intentional. That's not just it really started out kind of getting more serious and in writing more frequently with sending demos to my like ex-lover or my ex-boyfriend, and he did, we were already broken up, and it was just basically my sort of desire, my longing to get him back in some way, show him how much I love him by sharing with him all this music. And of course it didn't work out. Um, and a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, was like, that music's not for him. That's for other people who can relate with you on, the longing and the pursuit of unrequited love.
Um, do you work with yourself on these songs for the most part?
For the most part, yeah. And then sometimes I bring other people in. Right now, I'm working with this guy, Kier, who I've known for like over a decade now. And he works in film and TV composition. And he's super, super smart and literate in production and engineering and like technicalities that I'm not super familiar with. I just go more with the intuitive side of it, and he's more theory and knows all the presets and how to make everything, how to build everything in a really organic way. So, and then with the other record, I worked mostly with this guy Derek Coburn, who's another musician. He's been playing with multiple bands for a long, we were like in the same scene growing up, the Smell and Pair and the Echo and Echoplex and all of that. And now he's making amazing records. And I kind of jumped in at the perfect time because he was just starting to get really busy. But he was so sweet and fun to work with. And I mean, the record that we just made wouldn't be what it is without him. So, I can't give credit to just me. I'm not like, I'm doing all of this. Like, definitely, it's definitely group effort. Always, always.
What has it been like going from a full band or fuller band to just kind of a more stripped down, or sometimes just you on a record, or working just by yourself or with Derek or whoever it may be? Derek, right? Derek Coburn, you
Yeah,
said? Okay, I just want to make
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's so I love playing alone, whatever that may be. If I'm just dabbling on the guitar and singing or working on a demo or playing drums, it's just I feel alive and like I said, I mean, I always bring it back to like it's just therapy for me really at the end of the day. If I though that is my practice of taking care of myself, so to speak, is letting whatever inner emotions and expressions want to come out and putting it into the ether. And most of the time, I don't record it, I don't release it, I don't share it with anybody. I mean, I have so many demos on my phone that I've never, that I hardly even open up. often. I mean, and when I do, I'm like, whoa, what the heck? Why did I, why did I forget about this? You know? But it's different in the sense of when I share people, my music with others or ideas, it's cool because then they can kind of take it to a next level and bring it the life that I think it deserves, which is, yeah, it's taking it to, I mean, a place that I couldn't take it to, because if I hadn't made the move to even share it, it wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't have, no one would hear it in any context. So it's really just trusting the person and saying like, hey, wrote this song, or they'll write something and I have to trust myself to be like, I'm gonna sing in front of you and I'm gonna sing about this thing that I'm going through or the world or something. Like I'll have something that I want to share and convey in a song, but it has to be appropriate, you know, because otherwise if I'm working with people that I don't feel really connected with, spiritually or emotionally or musically, it's really hard. It's like, and I feel kind of frustrated at times because I'm just like, what's wrong with me that I can't just make music with anybody? But when you say it out loud or say it outside to someone else, they're like, well, energy, you know, just like relationships, like the things that doesn't always balance and doesn't always make sense doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them.
Right, it's just not the correct fit.
Sure. Yeah. So,
Uh, are you starting some of these compositions for this project with drums? Is that what you're kicking? Is that what's kicking it off, or is it an amalgamation of everything else as well? Sometimes.
yeah, with this record that I did, it was actually a lot of drum machine because it was during the pandemic. So I was just making beats on Logic and or on an electric drum kit that I got and just built from there. I'm you know I'm taking piano lessons, but I'm not super savvy with instrumentation and notation and knowing what chords I'm playing. So it's really just intuitive, sort of dabbling with different synthesizers and sounds and seeing what works. And again, that's why it's really cool to have people who do understand, like, oh, you're playing a, A major there, or, an A seventh or something, and I'm just like, okay, cool. You guide the logistics of this and I'll figure it out along the way.
Did you start picking up different instruments just along the years after picking up drums, just here and there, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, yeah. I got lucky when I was living with the Tourette's. Omar, he gave me a guitar, and I asked him to because I'm left-handed, and so he taught me how to play. I mean, he just gave me a couple pointers that I've taken with me to this day and that I still practice. So I was super lucky to be surrounded by, and my mom too. My mom's a vocal teacher and a singer and a pianist and a guitarist. And I was always hesitant to take piano lessons from her, which I kind of regret now because I do wish that I had that under my belt, but I'm learning right now and it's great. But yeah, so I mean, drumming, I will say, really, I mean, really helps. Really, really, really helps. If not piano, I'm at least really happy that I have a really bountiful knowledge of drums because it helps with, I mean, if I find a couple notes that I like together and just being able to find a more rhythmic pattern to play those on, as opposed to like, oh, it needs to be, chords or specific things. It's more just like, okay, this sounds really good together. And so I'm just going to make this kind of movement on it that feels like a cool, catchy melody and see what happens. And the same with vocals too. It's just about finding a rhythm and fitting into every other part that I've constructed into it.
Right. Kind of coming at it from a different approach or angle sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Different perspective. Also, like a good practice for me, and I know a lot of engineers do this, is just listening to other producers and listening to music that really inspires something different. Because I think when I was first writing, it was all inspired by more singer-songwriters and indie music, and now it's a bit more like, oh, I love Nine Inch Nails, like bands that I didn't listen to prior, Susie and the Banshees and Depeche Mode, and all of these bands that are, top tier for a lot of people, of course. But for me, it took a long time to really love that. And Cocteau Twins. Cocteau Twins is like at the top of my favorite bands of all time.
I don't believe you, but that's okay. Now, was Osglim, and am I saying that correctly?
Yeah,
Uh,
awesome.
was yeah,
I
was
don't
that
know actually. I don't know. I read it.
can you give me somebody that actually knows?
Us.
Age. Was that the first release from this project, from your
Yeah,
own project?
yeah,
What was putting that out like? Were you nervous about that? Just here's my here's my music.
yeah. Super nervous. And I didn't, and I, like I said, I did it more passively. I didn't do it with the intent of, oh, this is gonna succeed, I mean, I really, one of the songs was what got the attention of a lot of people. And I thought, oh, if I can write this, maybe I can do something even better. And yeah, I mean, I could, I have a friend and he loved it so much that he shared it with the drummer of Paul McCartney,
Oh,
Abe. And like Abe said to me after listening to it, he's like, "Oh, you're a songwriter. Like you're a real songwriter." And I, obviously, like that's like one of the biggest compliments I ever received. And to hear that from someone that I respect so much was, to me, it really doesn't matter what happens with this. Like I said before, I'm gonna keep writing and doing it, even if I don't feel like I've got my audience yet, or I'm a good marketing. I do not know shit.
does anything else in the process of making music make you feel nervous aside from that?
Ooh, yeah, for sure. Like I said, I'm a very emotional person, and something that is cool about Cocteau Twins and something that I know about Liz Fraser is that she thought that her inner voice and the words were so not, she didn't feel like they were strong enough to convey into music, and so she just made up her own language, so to speak. And that is the complete I love her, but that's the complete opposite of what I do. I mean, I am very literal and I share my feelings and my experiences, and I want to, I like doing that. And whatever anyone thinks and however it comes across, my intention is for it to be for someone who can relate with it, in whatever capacity. I mean, I have a friend who listened to one of the songs and thought that it was a love song, or thought that it was, I can't remember what it was. I think she said, yeah, she thought it was like a love song to somebody else, that it was like a romantic song, but it was actually a song for me. It was a song for the planet, or a song for other things that actually matter to me, in the context of what I'm trying to write about.
What makes you confident or happy uh, that revolves around making music?
Mm, it's so funny. I love that question because my cousin Rachel, she always asks me it,
Well,
and
it's
she's,
sent in by Rachel. Full
yeah, yeah, yeah,
disclosure.
yeah. That's what I thought. I'm like, she's on to this. Um, what makes me confident? Well, the one thing that I think really helped in recovery and in sobriety is talking about it with someone and talking about my experience as a musician, and the things that I would do to self-sabotage that, like drinking, smoking, doing whatever before the show, or distracting myself with things that were not part of my reality, present moment. And she was like, playing music is being of service, so you're being of service by playing music and by being on stage. And so I think that's what it really is I'm showing up to work. I'm showing up for you to have an experience as much as I am. I'm showing you that this is possible for anyone who is is born into a family that makes them feel ridiculous for having that desire, or yeah, like doesn't have it as easy as most people. I try to just encourage that this is something that's possible for a femme, for a woman to do, because it is a lot. It's super masculine, and it's really heartbreaking a lot of the times, because I really want to feel a part of, and as much as I want you to feel a part of when I'm performing. But a lot of the times that's not the case, and so I have to kind of trust that what I'm doing is for all the people who need to see that, who need to be like, whoa, like that I didn't know that that was possible. A friend of mine, Pachi, Pachi Man, I don't know if
Oh
you,
yeah.
so he and I have known each other for a while. Like we actually worked at a juice spot together like over a decade ago.
Do you
And
know Paco Casanova?
yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And he too.
is that also at the same juice spot?
Yes.
Okay, I
He got me the
understand that.
job, actually. Paco got me the job, and I didn't
Shout
get
out to
paid for
Paco. Please
that.
go back and listen to his episode.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we were just coworkers at the time, but whatever, we respected each other because I thought he was super cool. And then years pass by, and Pachi and Paco are playing in Prettiest Eyes, and they opened up for A Place to Bury Strangers on a tour that we did. And you know, I uh I smoked a little bit of weed right before their set, and this is 2018 or something, 2017, 2018. And it was one of the coolest shows I'd seen. I was like blown away by it. I mean, I was just like, whoa, those are my friends. Like this is amazing. And all of us are in the crowd are being blown away. I was in that like high of like, whoa, this is wild. And I go to Pachi after the show, and I was like, dude, that was like one of the coolest shows I've ever seen. Like, I am so inspired by that. And he's like, Leah, you were the first female drummer I've ever seen play in my entire life. Like, he was at Coachella 2012 when I played with the Butcherettes, and he saw me in the crowd, and I was the first person that he'd seen as like a female identifying person. And that to me was like, whoa, like this person that I've known for years, I didn't even know that that was his experience with me. And I have that a lot, where like people just someone said to a bandmate that I wasn't on tour with, like, oh, like I saw Leah play. I had just been going through a divorce, and like watching her play just kind of, awakened me, and it was so beautiful. And I was just crying the whole time. And it's just stuff like that where I have to remember I'm not doing this just for me. It's for everybody, and hopefully, or for the people that need it.
How does your family, your father and your brother and your mother, of course, how do they feel about what you've been doing with music now?
They love it. It gets me emotional. They're so proud. My brother, he's doing his own thing, trying to, like level up to what he wants to be and prove to himself that it's possible, because it's been really hard to do that. And I totally understand it. Had I not had the community that I have today, or had I not even just stepped out of my comfort zone by by attending shows and being a part of the music scene as opposed to just kind of like staying in the background or not going out or being too shy or being too nervous. Like it's all helped me to get to where I'm at today. Even just my vulnerability as a sober person, like that's helped me. But yeah, I mean, I I feel like okay, this is also fine because we're on a music podcast, but I with Le Tourette's, we opened up for Iggy and the Stooges in
Wow.
2011. And so I was 18 or 19 then. And I invited my parents. I'm like, you guys got to come. And at that time it was like my dad and I weren't in the best relationship. And again, like I decided to drop out of school and just do music. And when my dad was there and he saw the show and, I saw his reaction to it, it was just so cool for me to witness. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. He gets it now. He finally gets it. And now I think he really, really gets it. And he says how proud of me he is, and my mom too. And it's just really beautiful to be able to prove, even just mostly to myself, like I did it. I did it. I'm here now. It's still a lot of hard work, but like I'm used to it in a way. Like I've done it for this long that I can trust myself in it. I can trust that it's going to, if it's slow at some point, it's not always going to be slow. And if it's slow, I can always use it to do other things. And so I can trust myself as a student, now, and as an artist, and as a teacher, and as a just finding other things to do to get involved in.
I think it's a good way to put a pin on that. Leah, I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a joy.
Before I let you go, people could find you on Instagram, right? That's the best place people can go
Probably the best
find
place. Yeah.
you.
I got music on Bandcamp and all the streaming
Yeah, it's streaming everywhere, right? Wherever people get their music,
everywhere.
that's what, and
Yeah.
it's under your name, right?
Yes, Lia
Okay,
Braswell. Yeah.
right
And
on.
I'll be on tour in fall, so all of October with Trust and AFI, so that's gonna be fun.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
Is there anything else we got to promote?
not yet.
Okay. Well, just stay tuned then, right?
Just
That's
be
it.
good to your mothers and, eat your vegetables.
Leah,
Okay.
I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop
Thank
recording
you. All
this. Yeah, and
right.
I'll talk to you in a minute. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.